Hello and welcome to the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Championship, the Track Racer GT Series live on Apex Racing TV. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick, alongside me is Daniel Lee, Scott Newton operating the cameras tonight, and we are here for round 6 of the championship, round 7 of the championship even, at Interlagos, a classic Brazilian circuit. We're back to the 45-minute sprints tonight. Daniel, so far it has been a remarkable run of form for Trak Esports. We say it week after week. It's similar to James Scott's dominance in the AOSC Super Series, of course. They've won all 6 races so far, and it was a pretty incredible win as well at Barber last time. Really just highlighted how great Ross Rizzo's strategic mindset is. I mean, he would not have won that race if he didn't go for the right strategy under the safety car. And he came away with another race win, which going into this middle part of the season, this second half of the championship, gives him a large margin to play with in the championship lead.
Yeah, good evening, Sam, and to all the viewers tuning in. Great to have you back again. It was a bit of a masterstroke last week at Barber. I mean, it was the same strategy we saw from Ross Rizzo at Donington, with the use of the safety car to knock those 2 pit stops out in the endurance format. And the team's nailed it again. So they're looking in very fine form coming here tonight to Interlagos. Completely different circuit to kind of what we saw last week at Barber, but one that's going to challenge these guys. And I'm sure a lot of them are going to be enjoying being back on a slightly more traditional GP layout.
Yeah, after many unconventional rounds so far this season, yeah, slightly more conventional, although it feels weird to be calling this place a conventional layout. Of course, a place steeped with history used to be a lot longer than this. Used to have a much bigger infield section. Would be awesome if iRacing modelled that one day, albeit I think this layout is pretty much as good as this track has ever got. A real challenge for the drivers, and certainly a fantastic place for racecraft as well. Very possible to defend here, which is a weird one. You'd think a few straights around this track, wide circuit, you'd be able to make quite a lot of overtakes. But if AOL GT from last Sunday is anything to judge by, you can hold track position even if you're a bit slower. We're currently in a 10-minute practice session. The drivers have already done qualifying, and that qualifying session will decide who's in this top split. Now, this is the top split. We believe that we've got 2 splits tonight, such as the popularity of this championship, and only the top half of the drivers get into this top split. So if you can do that, then you've done a very good job. We will then have a 45-minute race. 1 pit stop will be needed. We could have safety cars. We could even have a virtual safety car, albeit we haven't seen one so far this championship. And yeah, the drivers will line up just coming out of turn 5, going into the middle sector of the lap. And so our grid then for this round 7 of the championship, it is Ross Rizzo on pole position. And I believe that might even be his first pole position of the season. Facts. Maybe would need a fact check there, but that is some ways to bounce back after not looking like the fastest driver at Barber. That is a really strong qualifying for the Trak Esports driver. Nathan Huppert starts alongside him on the front row of the grid. Then it's Craig Edwards, Lee Vandenberg, Trent Thomas, Simon Nicholson, Martin Crisp, Ben Dow, Michael Healy, and Byron Phillips. So only one Trak Esports driver there in the top few positions. I guess Trent Thomas up there in 5th, but maybe like a slightly further spread out than normal. Scott Sosowski starts in 11th. Then it's Tom Huggin, Timothy Bevan, Jesse Butler, Jeremy Clark, Adam Gardner, Nick Sanfilippo, Adrian Vlock, Martin Silvassi, Matt Morris, Miles Burgess, Stefan McCartan. Then it's Jordan Pruden, Kobe Laszlo, Bradley Sanders, Robert Chrisdell, Chris Weitzel, Nicholas Garoich, Blake Delaney, Dale Braid, Hayden Smith, Shane Bowen, Christopher Hughes, John Puce, Paul Warwick, and BJ Kennedy. And out this 36 car field, so slightly more drivers. I think 72 drivers or 71 trying to get into this top split. Usually, Daniel, Rizzo isn't a very good qualifying. So if he can put it on pole in qualifying, I'm scared to see how quick he's going to be in the race.
Yeah, he hasn't quite got the qualifying down. That being said, I mean, pre-qualifying this week, he managed to put in a 1:18.454, which put him third fastest outright in the pre-qualifying time. So the pace is already there in the Ford. The Porsche a little bit quicker in the hands of his teammate, a 1:18.384 to get into tonight's top split. But all in all, the guys looking pretty good. Big surprise, though, is the two Fusion Sim Racing cars that have vaulted up the order and now find themselves in second and third with Hupperts and Edwards. And I know those two will really be hoping for a really strong result tonight.
Maybe the Corvette preferring this track. It hasn't been the car's go-to so far. See, it's light as well. Very unimpressionable there. But at least the beams in the Ford GT leading the cars away. The Porsche safety car about to come in. Ross Rizzo is going to try to make it 7 from 7 for Trick Esports. His decision when to put the foot down, and we are away racing for 45 minutes of action at Interlagos. A couple of drivers almost in the pit wall already as we get under green flag conditions. And at the moment, second and third just trying to defend themselves from the other places. Good start though for Rizzo, 3 wide, even 4 wide, further down the order, so starts to get themselves into single file as we move on to the back straights. It's Rizzo leading the way, Hupperts in second place, Edwards in third, Vandenberg in fourth. Highest up position change has been Ben Dow to get past Martin Crisp already, but Crisp doesn't look like he's going to lose any more positions. So Jesse Butler just moving ahead of Nixon Philippa, although Butler is 1 place down from where he started. Adrian Block with a slightly poor start. Good start for Shane Brown. He's gone from 32nd, last on the grid, up into 26th. So maybe watch out for him, as I think we're going to have a spin around Adam Gardner and Adrian Block. And that's quite a few cars involved in that one. And we might even see a safety car coming up. And that was just a tiny little tap going into 6th, and it left a couple of cars stranded in the middle of the circuit. And well, that was pretty bad through there, but apart from that, we somehow got through the center rest is fine.
Yeah, a little bit of an awkward spot there for all the guys. I mean, they were really widely congested as they worked their way through the first portion of that. Matt Morris also involved in that, the only Ferrari that we've got out here tonight. And it's a bit of a rough start for him, but it looks like Gardner, Prudence, Burgess. I think Martin Savassi was also involved in that one, along with Stefan McCartan as well. So quite a few quick drivers all caught up in that one there. And we'll have to see what they're able to do as the laps continue on here. Nick Sanfilippo already gained 1 spot. He's working on Jesse Butler, and Butler actually going to stick the nose off the Mach 1 Porsche down the inside, as we've got a few guys running wide into turn 1. It's a bit of an unsafe rejoin there for Ben Dale. He'll have to be careful on that one. But all in all, not too bad.
Yeah, Ben Dale was up a place, of course. He managed to get up into 7th place, so that is a big shame for Ben Dale, one of the new drivers for this championship. Just up ahead, what's that? Healy, Bill Phillips and Crisp. So that 7th place is a bit cursed at the moment, because that was what they were fighting over, I believe. Also, Edwards has just got past Hupperts, 2nd place. So that is a change between the teammates. So plenty of stuff happening at the moment. That's here in the Track Racer GT Championship. Big thanks to Track Racer. And if you are looking to upgrade your rig, go to Track Racer, because they've got absolutely everything you need in that regard. Some real high quality stuff if you're willing to spend a little bit of money to upgrade your rig. Maybe if you're getting a direct drive wheel, perhaps if you're getting some new equipment. A new rig is absolutely important for that, so do check out Track Racer if you need any of that. Braid is going to get a drive-through penalty, no stop and hold, just a drive-through penalty there. Then for Dale, Braid is currently in 23rd place. Good start actually for Braid, he was up 7 places, but a few of them may be due to the jump starts, and that is what we see around this circuit, Daniel. The green flag comes out quite early, and often you get a big concertina of the drivers at the front not going, and the drivers at the back saying, come on guys, get a move on, and that can cause quite a few issues.
Yeah, a little bit of a tricky start, Breed, already in serving that drive-through now, as we see another one issued too for Shane Bowen, so he'll have to come in, and that's going to put a bit of a damper on his great start to the night. So a few of these guys, as you say, just missing the start there a little bit, and it's very easy to do, especially when we've got the size of the field that we've got out there tonight. It's always tricky trying to keep an eye on who's out front, and for some of the guys that maybe one-car teams in this might not have the spotters looking a little bit further ahead to help them. as we see a couple of positional changes there. John Puce and Bradley Saunders working their way through and climbing a couple of spots there as we get right on board here with Shane Bowen, who, don't forget, will need to come down the lane and serve that drive-through penalty. He's going to have to be careful, though, because Blake Delaney all over the back of him in that Fisher Motorsports Porsche.
It's a really weird section of corners. It's really slow in these GT cars compared to what they'll be used to driving these. You just got to be so patient. You've got to make sure that you don't push the front tyres too much, otherwise you'll just slide out. But at the same time, you have to be. It feels a little bit slow if you are just waiting for the tyres to grip up. It's just a delicate mix there. Of course, we can see plenty of overtaking that section of the track. It is a superb circuit, this. Of course, hopefully Formula 1 will continue to visit. Oh, we've got a Ferrari round in the middle of the circuit. It's Tom Huggan. It's another driver who's gone off at turn 1, skipped across the grass, a bit like Ben Dowell did earlier on, and that was worse there for Huggan. Burgess also gets a drive-through penalty, and that is standing now up to 19th place. But what on earth was happening there with Tom Huggan, who was having a good run, of course, the former amateur champion, I believe Huggan, from a couple of seasons ago. And well, it wasn't like outrageous from him or anything. He just locked the brake and ran a little bit wide. And once you get your tyres on the grass, it's almost impossible to get back on.
Yeah, it looked like trying to get that under move done there on the Trak Esports Porsche of Michael Healy, just overcooking it and running it through. I don't think Ford will be too impressed with you calling their car a Ferrari, however, Sam. But they're still going on and not too much damage on the back end of it. So a pretty good recovery to not be collected there by Healy as he worked his way down. I think there was a little bit of contact, however, with one of the Mach 1 Porsches. That might have been Jesse Butler as he skipped that car back onto the circuit.
Adrian Block versus Chris Weitzel. Okay, so players car onto the inside. Weitzel with good overspeed. We do know the BMW, or we believe at least, the BMW is the fastest car down the straight. Ooh, there's a bit of contact between the two of them. He's going to have to run wide, and the Ford will take advantage. So close to contact as San Filippo just moves himself ahead. Of course, when we talk about these differences between the cars, they're not massive differences. I mean, they're a few miles an hour, but when you've got such a close field, and when overtaking could be quite tricky around the circuit, those extra few miles an hour down the straight will be important. And that's why we talk about the characteristics of the cars quite a bit. But yeah, certainly the BMW, the fastest car down the straight, we believe. The BMW always very drivable. Which really, whatever setup you got, whatever track you're at, always going to be competitive. But sadly, it's the Ford leading the BMW at the moment. And Adrian Vlog is now 5 places from his start. Chris Weitzel just behind them, up 12 places. Good.
Yeah, good strong drive from Weitzel there, and making the most in that BMW. And just to touch on the balance of performance, Sam, as you were talking about there, we've got from race control the BMW no penalty added for this round, the Ford GT with 9 kilos, the Ferrari with 10. We've only got one of those out there tonight in the hands of Matt Morris. The Porsche gains 12. Still very competitive out front, while the Corvette has 5 kilos added to it, as we see a few more guys fire down the lane. Martin Crisp now ducking in, but those weight penalties haven't seemed to really slow down the Ford, which is still carrying a substantial amount of weight, but still managing to hold its own, especially against the Corvette.
Yeah, and I think there was a recent BAP change from iRacing, wasn't there? I think the Ferrari's a bit more competitive now, but unfortunately no one's running it, so it might be the car to go for right now. Remember, this is a fixed setup series, so all the cars have the same setup. Well, obviously, you can't have, the Ford and the Corvettes having the same setup, but all the Fords have the same setup, all the Corvettes have the same setup, and so forth. And that same setup will be used for all the rounds of the championship. And the only change that the organisers make is just to add a little bit of weight for the rounds. If one car is getting ahead of the other, change a little bit of the weight. and they are constantly tweaking that round after round, just a little adjustments to make sure that the cars are as evenly matched as possible. It's a fine art, but they do a brilliant job. So thanks to the Trak Racer GT series admins for all of their assistance, and thanks to the live streamers. Of course, we've already seen some of their notifications on the bottom of the screen. Dale Braid, after that, what happened to Dale Braid? What did he get the drive through?
Correct. That was a jump start penalty at the start of the race. So he's come through, served that, and actually he's got Shane Bowen, who similarly had that same drive-through penalty applied following the start that he managed to receive as well.
It's a pretty long pit lane, I believe, round here. Well, they always seem long whenever you drive down them. Side by side position to see this battle go on. Oh, great disappointing on the brakes. Thought he was going to misjudge that one. Corvette is ahead. McCartan ahead of Bowen, which isn't exactly what you'd expect, especially with the damage on McCartan's front nose at the moment. Wait, let's see Braid now go for an overtake going into 4. Will he go for it? Yes, he will. Gets his car onto the left side, inside line, and he is just about killed, though the BMW coming back, and this is what we can see around this track. And can probably count on about 3 hands how many times we've seen side-by-side battles around an entire lap around this place, but this time at least, Bowen does stay ahead, but here comes Braid again. And the BMW just cannot fight him off, and they're losing quite a bit of time because of it. Burgess might be in with a chance. These guys, another driver, he's already got a drive-through penalty in this race.
Yeah, and Braid down the inside, just pulls the nose back just enough to not make contact. But while both these two are continuing to scrap on as hard as they are, McCartan driving away from them up front. And they're going to have to be careful that this doesn't go on too much longer, as Bridge should get this move done now as they exit up towards the front straight. But the longer this continues on, the more pressure it's going to start putting on those front tyres, and that's ultimately going to hurt their lap performance as well. But still, the power of that BMW as he fires up down over the front straight, fantastic. He's going to carry a huge amount of speed and continue to hold that position, which is currently 27th on the grid. To switch from those guys up to a couple more Porsches still battling, and Kobe Laszlo and Paul Warwick getting on with business down in 21st, 22nd respectively, and a pretty good run for both of these guys. Warwick up 13 spots from where he started, so that's a fantastic drive so far.
Good drive for some of the rookie drivers. The rookie drivers annotated by the red stripe on the timing tower, and they all started quite far down. They all started kind of 25th to 30th, and you can see now, you've got Sanders up in 17th, Houston 20th, Warwick in 22nd, and Heroic in 24th. So surprisingly, they are sometimes the best drivers in the race car, despite the fact that you think that the more experienced drivers would be able to get a handle on them in that regard, but they certainly are holding their own up there. I wonder if we go back up to, well, this is pretty far up the front, Fieben versus Sislowski. I can see back Sislowski might offend him here. I don't remember him seeing that all the rounds so far at this championship, but maybe he's just always mired just outside the top 10, and maybe we haven't quite seen him as much as we'd like. But of course, former podium sitter in this championship got a 3rd place, I believe, at Suzuka, maybe even second actually, after all the penalties were applied for that meeting with speeding under virtual safety car. Of course, Paul Vegas strategy that day, running pretty well in 8th place at the moment, and you can see in terms of the gaps between the leaders, all about 1 second between everyone. Rizzo not having it easy, but he's just about got a gap, and crucially, Daniel, at the moment, Edwards isn't saving any fuel behind Rizzo, and the teammates aren't working together really either, because Huppert's isn't saving fuel behind Edwards. So that would be the advantage, I think, that those guys would normally try to attain, even if they don't have track position. But at the moment, everyone's kind of just running by themselves. The gaps are just a bit too big.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a hard circuit too to get into a good rhythm and still allow for the teammates, as Edwards and Huppert's trying to do, save that little bit of fuel, because you're always going to be a little bit quicker than your teammate in certain parts of this circuit. And unlike when we go to Le Mans, where you can utilise the straight line potential down the Mulsanne straight, you've got not a lot of that here. As you see a move down the inside, Trent Thomas on Lee Vandenberg, these guys for 4th and 5th, but just struggling to get the most out of that. They might be able to maybe turn down the boost just a fraction and see whether they can hang on, but have to see how that goes. These guys are going to need to be careful though, because Simon Nicholson is licking his lips as they work down into turn 3 there, as the two BMWs continue fighting, and Trent Thomas manages to slide the Trak Esports car up now into that 4th position.
So once again, Trak Esports seemingly improving in the race. We've seen it from Sislaus here, we've seen it from Thomas already. And Rizzo's backing up his strong qualifying performance as well. But Thomas now 2.5 seconds behind Harper, so he would have saved a bit of fuel in the draft. I think main ports of call though for him would just be to hold on to that place the next couple of laps as we move around the final couple of consular laps. Took by pretty quick. We're only on lap. We're going to be moving on to lap 11. I feel like this one is going to ignite at some point. Certainly, if we could get a safety car, that would really interest things, especially with the safety car restarts we get around this track. It would be a single file restart, so it wouldn't be quite as chaotic as the first lap, but it still mix the order up slightly. Of course, if anyone has to tow back to the pits, a safety car will be what we get, which will bunch the entire field up. Plenty of time for that 13 minutes to go. Here comes next Philippi to the inside of Adrian Block. Block will have the inside for turn 2, and St. Philippi doing the wise thing for XRC. Just staying behind. I say I'm a big fan of that livery. Do you like the just the front nose of that? Not sure if we got that on stream, but it does look pretty nice. He's trying to go around the outside of Block, but that's not going to happen into 4. And you'll have to probably wait another half lap until he gets a better opportunity.
Yeah, Weitzel's going to be looking at the back of that Ford, thinking of where he can get a run through, and this portion of the circuit up through 6, 7 and 8, about 2 to 3 different lines that these drivers can all look at taking as they Constantina back up in this 8 here. But interesting seeing Sanfilippo just trying to tuck the nose of that Ford in a little sooner. Does throw him wide on the exit there. Weitzel just taking a very traditional line, but hanging in at this point in time. So hopefully if those two can continue their scrap, this should turn into a nice little fight here as the guys just battling outside that top 10. Just see Jesse Butler there squeaking through in the bottom of the frame as well for Mach1 Esports, and another good drive for him as well.
So Robert Crisdale has crashed for JP's Simshed. Well, we had a lot of this at ARL GT actually on Sunday. Really good meeting actually that. Tom McMahon taking the third race win of the season to clinch his third championship, his second GT championship. That will be well, hopefully returning in the next few weeks. But we saw plenty of chance as well on the roof, so it was a weird race where it seemed like if he hit a wall, probably do a few flips. We saw one do that at turn 4, we saw one do that actually between 5 and 6 where we've just driven, and then also one through turn 3 as well. I believe there's something going on with Scott Sostowski. Unfortunately, I can't see this one, Daniel.
Yeah, so down the inside here of Tim Phoeben, and they'll slot the Trak Esports C8 down the inside, but Phoeben holding pretty tight. It's going to get an off track there. They'll work their way through 4 and 5, but the power of the Corvette will get through, and he's able just to drop that car across the nose of the Porsche there. We should see him now take this down up into 8 and gets it done quite nicely, and a little bit of room there left from Tim, so he'll slot in behind now and look at his options to trying to work his way back up.
I've just read some of the chat, and you know, apologies if you usually watch this on the iRacing Esports network, but probably won't be broadcasting this championship on the Esports network for too long. So subscribe to Apex Racing 2. Go subscribe to Apex Racing 2, because if you watch any other series on the Esports network, then they might not be on there as well. So you can subscribe to Apex Racing TV and like this video so that it comes up in your recommended. Subscribe so it comes up in your subscriptions, and then you're sorted. It's all good. It's all happy times. Bob Humphrey saying some outrageous things on the YouTube chat. For those who don't know, and I assume that's everyone, We are having a duel later on to decide who is the better driver, and certainly Bob is going to lose on that one. But that is pretty much the entire YouTube chat. But thanks for tuning in, and hopefully you're enjoying this GTE racing at the moment. And of course, any drivers looking back at this, so watching as well. Here comes Dow. After troubles early on, he's done pretty well as Ben Dow, sorry, to get back up in 20th. Now I think of Bob Dolder. He's right behind Paul Warwick. Have a look to the inside. Big lockup just ahead as well. Drive through the smoke. And Warwick staying ahead, but with the straight line speed of the BMW, it's going to go for it straight away here, and we don't usually see moves into turn 12 because it's usually better just to leave it a bit. That's a back marker, I believe, of the circuit, and that's Shane Bowen having a tricky race out here, and also another spin as well for Timothy Bieber. He's down to 10th place. Bieber, who was running in 7th, I believe, previously. But that is a pretty big mistake. 8th he was running previously, just behind Scott Sosbowski, and that's an unforced error.
Yeah, we're just having a look at it on the replay. Gets a little bit of a slide on the initial tip in through turn 1 and round at turn 2 there. Lucky to not get cleaned up by any of the guys coming through. I think it was Jeremy Clark and Jesse Butler who were first in line. But he gets back underway. Paul Warwick and Ben Dow still going at it. We should see Warwick manage to cycle his way through. And right behind them, Michael Healy and John Puce getting involved in it as well. So a little 2x2 action. These guys working their way up through 6 and 7. And Dow gets all into the back there of Warwick and sends both those cars around. So it's a nice gifted spot there for Puce, Healy and Garnish.
Yeah, I wonder if we could get a replay of that one. Those instants through 6 and 7, always very tricky to judge because you can't expect the inside driver to stay right the inside of the track. I mean, you're going to have to open up eventually. You're not going to stay right at the white line. But then, of course, for the driver on the outside, you're thinking, well, I've left you a car's width there, mate. Yeah, let's see what the stewards think about that one. I wonder what view we'll see. Here goes Michael Healy then. Yeah, no. I won't give my opinion because it might contradict what the stewards say. But I'm sure they'll make the right call on that.
Yeah, it's a little 6 of one, half a dozen of the other there. I think both going at it pretty solidly, but we'll wait and see what comes of that one. They have formed up again, and back as we saw before, Warwick and Dow fighting each other again down through turn 3 now, and this could be a chance to see whether Dow can get that move done successfully. As see another penalty issue for Byron Phillips there, unsafe track re-entry, and not a great night for him out there on the circuit. So he'll be back down the lane again momentarily. And this battle now for 18th starting to heat back up again with actually Healy's managed to scamper away from these guys. We saw him just in this battle a second ago, but Puce, Nicholas and McCartan all involved in it. And not much separating either of these guys. And have a look for that C8 to try and make a move just in the back of shot there.
Now halfway through this race, has gone, and I don't want this to be like a criticism or anything, it has gone a little bit slow this race, but I think that's sometimes a good thing. It's quite nice when you have these races where, you know, we can kind of pay attention to what mostly is happening on circuit when it's absolutely carnage. I feel a bit bad that we're not maybe covering a few Joe's battles, but I think we've been able to catch a good 70% of them so far. And so far in the lead, it's just been just consistent laps between these drivers. We do know that there is some air wake in these cars. I mean, there's air wake in the supercars as well. Of course, the slipstream in fact a bit stronger in these than the supercars, so that does counteract it a bit. But to get within a second, do you have to kind of push through that? Because I think the turbulent air might kind of kick in a little bit before the draft effect. But it is remarkable how Rizzo and Edwards have only extended that gap by about half a second over the last 20 minutes or so. You have to be an expert to realise that's a very small pace difference. And Harper's as well maintained the gap. Thomas, ever since he's got clear of Berg, he's been maintaining the gap as well. So this top four are incredibly evenly matched. There's absolutely nothing to split them whatsoever. It's just those initial gaps that form between the lots of them, which is the difference at the moment. And so one mistake, or one bit of inspiration maybe from one of the drivers, could make the difference at the moment. But looks as though they're all going to have to come in on the same lap, and it might even be down to whichever car uses the most amount of fuel. I'm not quite sure if the Corvettes or the BMW or the Ford uses the most amount of fuel, but if you can save a couple of litres, that could be the difference. Oh, we got a spin round by Edwards, and I thought it was going to be a mistake or maybe a moment of inspiration. Well, that is a mistake. And Craig Edwards, who is one of the most consistent drivers in this championship, I think coming across some traffic, he's over-rotated that car, and that is a huge mistake on the 928, and a real disappointment there for Fusion Sim Racing.
Yeah, we're just looking at that now. Gets the car up on the curb, tries to get around that back mark. I think that might have been Paul Warwick, who'd only just come out of pits on this lap as well. So just impeding the progress of these guys, and no doubt that's ultimately upset Edwards, who's now going to find himself under a huge amount of attack now. He's already dropped behind Trent Thomas, Lee Vandenberg, so effective 7th on the road to begin this lap. Now finds himself down in 5th, and he's going to take this opportunity to get into the lane. So there's been a really costly run for him, and we'll have to see how he can rebound, but certainly not going to be impressed with the back markers out on circuit. And that will now release Huppert to get back on with business. But I've just been looking at the lap times that all our top 5 at that point had been doing, and there was absolutely nothing between them lap on lap. We're only seeing hundredths or tenths to hundredths of a second difference over the course of each lap. So very conservative on the use of the fuel, trying to maximize the potential that we can get. And we're going to be coming into that time, as you so clearly say to Sam, that we're going to be seeing all these guys firing through and knocking over this one and only pit stop for tonight.
I'm surprised Edwards came into the pits, to be honest with you. I don't think he was right behind Berg out there. Was he ahead of Berg, or was he just ahead of? I think it was behind Berg, wasn't he? So yeah, I think he had a little bit more space to push. Now he's behind Huggan. Huggan's no slouch, so he's 6/10 behind Huggan, and we'll have to do a little bit with that. Jeremy Clark has just come into the pits as well, and he's back out in 12th place. Good day for Clark. So he's got his pit stop done. He's still 3 seconds clear. There's quite a divide in the field, actually. Timothy Theben, who had some really good pace last time out at Barber, nearly got a podium. I think he got overtaken by Healy right in the closing stages. But Theben, not that fast today, in 7th place, and lapping about half a second slower than the drivers ahead of him. I think he did have a knock as well. But that's kind of the chasm. Adam Hedgecock is listening along. The chasm between the order at the moment, between 6th and 7th. Of course, Sisowski did overtake Theben earlier on, so I don't quite know how that gap has got so big. But Theben on those last few laps, at least are starting to match the driver ahead as Huggan and Sanders go into the pits.
And Edwards putting in a reasonably good time. First time through, he's got a fair bit of clear track now ahead of him. That gap to Sanfilippo just under 6 seconds ahead. So he should be able to start closing that up. And obviously those guys are going to need to come into the lane over the coming laps as well, which will definitely help promote him back up. But we need to keep an eye on Vandenberg, Nicholson, and potentially Sislowski just to see where these guys are going to come through and ultimately what their stop times are going to be and whether or not they have a little bit of an advantage and can keep ahead there of Craig Edwards as he works his way through. But these guys in 4th and 5th, Vandenberg and Nicholson, still just starting to get into a little bit of a fight. You just see a glimpse of Sislowski right behind them as well. So not much separating either of these two, only 6/10 of a second. They work their way up the front straight for what is now the 19th, about to start the 20th lap. And it doesn't look like either of these two will be coming down the lane at this point.
It's a terrible job having to make the pro and AM ratings for drivers and the elite ratings as well, for that matter, because you go into the season and you can have all the data that you want about who's going to be fast, who's going to be not so fast, what their pros and cons are. And then once you get into the championship, you have some drivers who just absolutely go well above their rating, and some drivers who are well below their rating, and it's impossible to predict. And Nicholson's done that because he has been borderline an elite driver so far this season. Of course, getting a front row of the grid start back at Indianapolis, I believe, and also was very strong at Le Mans, I believe. Did we even race at Le Mans? I'm not even sure. But he's done very well as Nicholson, and so that amateur rating, I'm sure he will discard. There also Martin Crisp as well, another impressive amateur driver so far this season. They are really mixing it with some of the best in the league.
Yeah, and similar to that last season, we also had our reigning champ, who was one tier down, managed to take the championship overall, and did a fantastic job. I was going to say too, Nicholson, we saw him have a fantastic run at Indy, which we touched on there, Sam. Ultimately, didn't go the way he would have liked. There was a little bit of a tangle at the back end of that race, which saw him drop down. But yeah, really finding good form in that car, and he's continued to carry it on as we see Huppert, Berg, and Nicholson now all in the lane to get their stops completed. And a little further down now, Jesse Butler and Ben Dowell getting amongst it. And these two have had a bit of a storied night and a few incidents there for Dowell, but he's managed to rebound quite nicely. Got the pit stop now completed, working back through and finding himself currently in that 14th position.
Nicholson versus Edwards. Edwards is right on the back of Nicholson as he comes out of the pits. Will Edwards be able to get ahead? Or actually, Edwards might be able to get ahead of Berg as well here. Oh, he might not even be ahead of either of them. I think he's lost out there to Nicholson. Oh, and there's contact between the two of them, and round goes Edwards. And fortunately, he's kept that car in a straight line. He's had to try to gather it all up again, but maybe that was Nicholson coming across too much. Maybe that was Edwards going for a gap. That was always going to close. Berg can pull away from the pair then, but I think Edwards was ahead of Nicholson before the pit stop, and I was questioning why he came into the pit so early, because he had a bit of clear air in front of him. I think he must have lost a bit of time behind Tom Huggan. And this is what it was from Edwards, and you can see, you will be able to see, you'll be able to hear from his spots actually, car on your left, which indicates that someone's coming out of the pits. And he comes out just behind. Now there's the XRC car come across aggressively. Oh, well, we'll see. It's weird with that one because there's a slight dink. You'll be able to see it on the right side of the track. There's a slight dink, and that causes an immense amount of problems every time we visit him.
Yeah, a little touch and go one that race control will definitely have to keep an eye on. We've also seen some more guys come through the lane to complete their stops as well. Rizzo's through, Upperts came through last lap, Thomas, and then we saw Vandenberg and Nicholson obviously coming through to complete their stops as well. So everyone now throughout the field, status quo, all those stops are done, and there you go, penalty for Nicholson, so not leaving enough room there, and that will see him tour back down the lane. Craig Edwards will now jump back up, and that will get him now into that 5th spot when that penalty is served.
I wonder if that counts as a commentator's curse there. It's really praising Nicholson, and then he gets a drag the penalty, so no 5th place for Nicholson. Could have even been 4th with the pace advantage you had over Berg, and instead you will be probably down. Well, he could still beat Theben. Theben was 8th before the pit stops. Theben's now down to 10th actually. He's dropped behind Clark and Healy, and continuing to lap quite slowly as well. Is Theben, although I think that was because of coming into the pits. Yes, so that's not very reflective of his actual pace. So Sklowski now onto the back of Edwards, who is behind some back marker traffic. In fact, actually, Edwards is back onto the back of Nicholson, I believe, as San Filippo is quite slow. He's just dropped behind behind Ben Dell. I wonder if that's a redress for an instant earlier on.
I think that might have just been a little bit of a moment for him there up in that second hairpin, just not getting the car slowed down and rotated enough. I think he's just lost the back end and now gets himself back going. Nicholson in the lane to serve that penalty, and that drops him currently in 9th position. We'll wait to see whether Theben's able to gain enough of an advantage and maybe take that spot as well. But at the moment, the gap's still sitting at about 7 seconds. So I think that should be quite all right for him there. Jesse Butler's trying to close up now on Sanfilippo. That little loss too would have been a nice little incentive for him to push that fraction harder if he's got anything left in that Mach 1 Porsche as well.
Personal best lap for Butler and Huggin, and also Delaney and Gardner. What if we get the weather just up on screen for a moment? See if the temperature of the track is 19 degrees at 6 o'clock in the evening on the 15th of November, of course, because 15th of May is the 15th of November in the Southern Hemisphere. Of course, we only have that round. Brazil and or Interlagos, and obviously the Australian circuit as well. Apologies, so it's actually 6 a.m. Apologies for that one. So yeah, 6 a.m. and you can see the clock actually just by that. That's showing 6 past 6. That's a lot of work. That's half our processing power to create that clock. But it does look good because it is accurate, you see. Yeah, hopefully we see some more Southern Hemisphere circuits. And I think Sepang is just about in the Southern Hemisphere. I'm not quite sure. If anything, it might just be north. It might be Singapore, which goes through the equator. But no, that would be another cool Southern Hemisphere circuit. There's plenty of Aussie circuits as well. The Bend and Sandown and plenty of others. Will be welcome additions. Smith just making Burgess go offline. Burgess, I think, with their penalty as well earlier on, although Smith just struggling to turn 2. He's not going to be able to launch an attack as they head past the DRS boards. So again, the DRS in these cars, of course, we got to get the move done. In a very strong way. Ross Vizzo, by the way, leading by 1.9 seconds. He lost about a second during the pit stops. He just put in a little bit of extra fuel. In fact, he put in about 3/10 extra fuel in the pit stop. So the gap's just come down a little bit. And also, I think he lost a little bit either on pit entry or pit exit, because that gap was at about 2.5. It's down to 1.8 and has maintained like that ever since the pit stops. But he's been able to keep an arm's distance, and this is an incredible runner for him. Remember, so far this season, Rizzo has already won 3 races, and I believe this would be 7 out of 7 for Trak Esports, which is a mind-blowing achievement for a team who haven't won that many races really in the last few seasons in this championship. And yet between him and Trent Thomas and Michael Healy, they have done a brilliant job at locking out all of these races so far this season. And still 2 seconds is the gap with 8 minutes to go here at Interlagos. So we've got to keep it on the circuit though in order to convert this one. Tom Huggin very close to Jesse Butler. Huggin, after a spin earlier on, unfortunately didn't get too much damage from it down at turn 2. He's right back onto the rear end of the Porsche car. Now this is 14th.
Yeah, not much separating either of these two as they work up into the second hairpin. A little lock up there for Butler on the entry, but that shouldn't hinder him too much. Interesting to see though with the pace advantage that the weight advantage at least that the Ford is carrying. It's 3 kilos heavier, or 3 kilos lighter, sorry, for this event. Should be able to utilize that to transcend and maybe get past into turn 1, but we'll keep an eye on this and see how it goes. But the Ford Ferrari, Sam, is looking quite handy out there for XRC at the moment.
Oh, I shouldn't have said that, should I? Huggin, again, putting him offline. This should be good. It's a brilliant section of corners. It reminds me a bit of well, I mean, Bahrain, I think, was inspired by that. But when you got a hairpin first corner, and then you got kind of the other direction into the second corner, it really does work well because the cutback is so effective, particularly in these cars where you've got to slow down quite a bit for turn 2. At the moment, Hagen with the advantage. Butler will have to go the long way round. Can he keep his part of his car alongside? He should have better speed going into 6, and Hagen's going to have to be careful here. We've already seen 2 incidents down at this corner, one on the opening lap and then one about 10 minutes into the race. We don't see a third. Hagen up into 13th place. He's got 3.5 seconds to catch up to San Filippo, who's been pretty quick so far, San Filippo. To be honest, actually matching Scott Szyslowski on that last lap was the man in 12th place. So I don't think Hagen will be able to make really any impression. He'll do well to decrease that gap at all. Further down, it's starting to get a bit closer again in these mid-20s positions. We've got Smith, Puce, Pruden, Sanders, also Kennedy and Block. Not too far behind either. Puce, who was running as high as 20th place, I believe, earlier on, had a little bit of a bad time of it, it seems. And now he's home to just hold him to a top 25. He's keeping Pruden behind him, but by the slimmest of margins.
Yeah, it's a really good scrap for these guys, just fighting outside that top 20 position. The Porsche there of Pruden, really aggressive down through the final complex corners there, just struggling a fraction in the top end, but having the draft advantage should be very handy for him. They're getting a small amount of blink for that car as well, so you're going to have to be careful to hopefully not get a disconnection drop there. To see Saunders try and follow Sweet, and a big move around the outside, not going to be able to finish it off though for Puce, and have to drop back in behind Smith, but might actually, he's going to lose a spot there to Brad Saunders. Managed to get that crisscross done through 3 and finds himself now up in the 26th position.
That was a weird turn too, actually, because Smith had cleared. Smith had cleared Puce, and yet left a big gap gaping, and then they kind of all just concertinaed behind one another, and that ended up with the loss of position for Pruden. He's down into 27th. Santos as well. He was up in like 18th earlier on, wasn't he? He was doing really well, I think. But the rookie driver's just gone down. It's actually Nicholas Garoich now leading the way in the rookie class. They do score points for overall position in this championship. And of course, there will be some high-scoring amateurs high-scoring rookies in the second division as well. But this is where you want to be in the top division, because sometimes you just get a few retirements or a few issues for some of the other drivers. You're guaranteed to get a decent point score as a rookie driver. Michael Healy, he's now got Jeremy Clark behind. Oh, that's a big move for Healy. Is he going to get it stopped? A big look up, and that is ahead. I don't think Clark will be pleased with that one, because that was really out of nowhere. He was quite a long way back, and Clark had no opportunity to turn into the corner, and we've got Healy back up into 7th place.
Yeah, really nice move here from Healy. It's something I've actually been waiting for a lot of these drivers to try earlier on. The big lunge down the inside carried that lock up a long way towards the apex, able to get it slowed down and rotate it through the corner. But that was a really nice move there for Healy, and now finds himself up in the 7th spot and already been able to make a bit of hay while the sun's shining on Jeremy Clark, and that gap now up to 0.4 of a second.
What happened to Healy? Did he get caught up in something on the first lap?
I don't think he got caught up. It did start a little bit further down than where we were probably anticipating based on the qualifying times earlier tonight, but the Porsche just not seemingly having the pace that it showed through pre-qualifying, which is a little bit weird compared to both the Ford and the C8 and the BMW for that matter as well. So maybe just struggling a fraction on tyres. That being said, still the leading Porsche out there tonight. Tim Phoeben is our next Porsche driver down in 10th position. So fair advantage at the moment for Healy, and doing what he can do to try and keep the life in those tyres.
Once again, you're watching the Track Racer GT series, and of course these Track Racer GT series races aren't going to be covered on the iRacing Esports network any longer, so maybe you've got the link instead to this Apex Racing TV, this weird channel called Apex Racing TV. It's a very good channel, and you should subscribe to Apex Racing TV, and then you can catch all the rest of the rounds for the AMF GT Championship, the Track Racer GT Championship, and we've also got the AOSC Super Series and the ARL TC Championship, the ARA Porsche Championship. We've got the ARA F3 Championship actually. So if you're looking to take part in some Formula 3 racing, go to apexracingleague.com. You can get signed up for that championship. That's on Saturday evenings for Europeans. So subscribe to Apex Racing TV. It's the overall message, because a lot of our streams aren't going to be on the iRacing Esports network anymore. So you need to subscribe to Apex Racing TV so you do not miss any of our broadcasts. Blake Delaney was very slow, and you don't usually break halfway around turn 13. That seems to be the strategy that he was going for there. This was still in place to Adam Gardner from Mach 1. Yeah, don't know what that one's about, because it's very tricky to pick up a slowdown around here. Maybe that was another address.
Yeah, more than likely, or a little bit of a slowdown penalty there that Delaney did need to clear. That being said, up 12 spots from where he started the event tonight, so a pretty solid run there for the Fisher Motorsports driver. Just starting to hemorrhage a little bit of time, however, off the back of Adam Gardner there, who has had a very quiet night, a little uncharacteristically quiet for Gardner for Mach 1 tonight. Down in the 16th position. We're just about to kick over our final lap, and could see Rizzo come back with another win.
Yeah, I wonder if this will catch out anyone, because Rizzo's pace throughout this race has been really good, and I wonder if this is just going to force an extra lap, because he only crossed the line with about 12 seconds to spare. He didn't put in a whole lot of fuel, so Scott Kozlowski might be in trouble. Nathan Huppert's as well. They both put in a little bit less fuel than others. See if he's lifting and coasting. Nah, he seems alright. Kozlowski, I think he's going to be alright. Of course, it is uphill as well at the end here, so you don't really want to be pushing that fuel too much. We don't want a Road America-esque finish. As Rizzo just coming up to a back marker at the moment. John Puso, I think just in front of him now, just behind him, so doesn't want to take part in that extra lap. Huppert's just bringing the gap down to 1.4 seconds, but there's really never been any question about this one. Rizzo, he got it on pole position for one of the first times this season, and his race pace has been as awesome as it always is. He's going to take a 4th race win of this incredible championship. Ross Rizzo approaches the line, and he takes another race win here at Interlagos. Round 7 of the championship is his. Uppers pushes him hard, but finishes in a valiant 2nd place, and it's Trent Thomas making it 2 tricky sports cars on the podium. Lee Vandenberg will be in 4th place. Craig Edwards ends up in 5th, and Kozlowski was in 6th place, I believe, although he did of course have apologies, it was the penalty for someone else, wasn't it, further down the order. Let's say Bendel can hold off apologies, can pass Stefan McCartan on the run to the line. That's going to be coming down. It's about 1/4 of a second, and the BMW is quick down the straights. I think he's going to run out of time. I think he needs to be within 2/10 coming out of turn 12. Instead, he was about 3/10 behind, and Bendel will finish in 19th place after running as high as 7th in the very early stages. This might be a little bit more on. It's Sanders versus Pruden, and the Corvette dipping into the toe. They'll always be alongside coming up to the line. It was... Did Sanders get him? No, Pruden got him. Oh, that's sad. On the timing screen, it was actually Sanders who got ahead. But I think that was because Pruden was glitching out a little bit. But no, Pruden was in 25th position. And finishes just clear of his rival. So, have we got the results available? In fact, we might just have a couple more drivers to reach the line yet. But that was another brilliant drive from Ross Rizzo. Good to see Nathan Huppert's up there as well, to be fair, Daniel, because Huppert's, who, of course, nearly won the championship a couple of seasons ago. That's one of his best results I can recall for a while, and he was a proper match for Rizzo. Hopefully he can carry that form into the next couple of enduro rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. Really solid drive there from Nathan. Actually, driver I've been waiting to have a chat to over the course of this championship, because he has unfortunately had a few races that haven't quite gone to where he would have liked, and I think it's been a big change trying to get adapted now with the C8. But really solid run, and hopefully this is the start of things to come for himself and the Fusion team going forward for the remainder of the championship.
Yeah, maybe just getting a hang on the C8 now. And hopefully they can score a few more podiums yet towards the end of the championship. We are well into the second half of the season now. So I think we can get your results up on screen. And yeah, just watching the final few cars coming through. There we are, Roswizzo on the top step of the podium once again, clear of Nathan Huppert's in second place. Then was Trent Thomas, Lee Vandenberg, Craig Edwards, Scott Soslowski, Michael Healy, Jeremy Clark, and Simon Nicholson ended up being the top amateur driver anyway. He was only 24.6%. Maybe it's a very short pit lane out here. He only lost about 15 seconds, if that, coming into the pit. So it's pretty good for Nicholson. Phoeben finished in 10th place. Then it was Martin Crisp, Nick Sanfilippo, Tom Hagen, Jesse Butler, Chris Weitzel, Adam Gardner, Blake Delaney, Stefan McCartan, Ben Dow, Kobe Laszlo, Nicholas Garoit was top of the rookie drivers. Great drive for him. And then it was Miles Burgess, Martin Silvassi, Hayden Smith, Bradley Sanders, Jordan Prudent, Adrian Vlock, John Puce, who fell down quite a few places near the end, BJ Kennedy, Paul Rourke, Shane Bowen, Dale Braid, Robert Crisdell, Christopher Hughes, Byron Phillips, Matt Morris, and then the others were drivers who were, well, not even drivers. They weren't drivers. They were organisers, obviously. And thanks to them for sacrificing their time to do the live stewarding. And yeah, so we can have some proper results across the line rather than having to make them provisional. So it's always nice when the drivers jump straight into the interview waiting area. He's very sick of talking to me, but it's we've got Svirzo now in for a chat with us. Congratulations, Ross. I was a bit surprised, despite the fact that you were championship leader. You don't get a whole lot of pole positions. And then we load up the session, and there you are, on pole position. And I mean, once you got that, I feel like it was signed and delivered. The fact that you could get pole really did make today's meeting, it seems a little bit easier than normal.
Yeah, certainly, and that's actually my first ever conversion from pole. So yeah, like you said, don't get them often, and when I do, it's normally a bit of a disastrous race. But yeah, it turned out absolutely beautifully. I mean, dare say, I think Fusion have unlocked a little bit of pace in those Corvettes, because they were definitely, you know, keeping me honest, keeping the gap pegged at about 1.5 to 2 seconds the whole race. But you know, I can't imagine winning that race without that track position.
It seems insanely evenly matched. How much were you pushing out there? I mean, were you really like driving quite intensely, trying to gain every 10th of a second possible, or were you a bit more relaxed in the cockpit?
Well, I found I fall into the trap of overdriving if I am pushing too hard. So I was trying not to push too hard. Whether or not I was bleeding time, I honestly don't know. But I think we saw some of the consequences of you know, pushing that, being a little bit too greedy. This track does bite, despite, you know, all the infield, all the runoff and stuff like that. It does come to bite you with some lockups and tire wear and things like that. And not forgetting the 1X out of turn 4 is incredibly easy to get. So I was actually kind of nervous about how tight we were going to be cutting it to the for pit lane drive through.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk to us about that pit stop. I mean, when you're in that situation, when you've got a little bit of a gap, do you put 2 extra liters in, or do you just stay with the strategy that you had previously? Because you did lose a few tenths of a second in the pits.
No, the fuel was spot on. I think I was a little bit too ginger on the entry and exit. So I initially thought that Nathan had actually underfilled the car for a 30 lap race, not a 31, but it turns out no, he absolutely just nailed the stops. So yeah, that gave me a fair bit to think about in the final stint. And then he was able to bridge that gap quite a bit towards the end too. So I was definitely on my toes, and I just wanted to be able to get a gap where I could just take a deep breath and relax. And I never got it that entire race. So it was a fairly intense race.
Next up, we've got the third enduro of the season. You currently got a 100% record in the enduros. But you've kind of got, I mean, unfortunately, I wasn't able to see the Donington round, but I believe it was very similar to the Barber round where you managed to ace the strategy. Yeah, I mean, are you looking to do the same thing next time out, or do you think you'll be able to get it done on pace like you did today?
Well, Donington, I had both the pace and the strategy. Barber, I only had the strategy. I was reflecting about the Barber drive and wasn't too impressed with it. And I think, is it Phillip Island that's up next?
Yeah.
It's a hit and miss track, to be honest. Either I'm going to be great or fairly woeful. So look, we'll see if the plan is obviously to get another W or a podium, or if not a top 5. But yeah, I mean, as we saw with today's race, I mean, it was so close the entire race. It's anyone's game for sure.
Well, best of luck for that one. Ross, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yes, so to Alex Bird, who was helping us extract some pace out of the car. I was very nervous about turn 1 in particular. I just couldn't seem to get it right consistently, and that's where I was kind of losing time during the race as well. But he told me a couple of tricks, and they definitely got the confidence back. Also, a big shout out to Martin Silvassi and to Scott Zilovsky, jumping back in the saddle for the first time in a while, and Scotty bringing home a top 10, which is pretty unbelievable given his absence. And of course, the rest of the guys at Trak Esports, Trak Custom Fabrications, and Pro Symbia.
Nice one. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Ross, and keep up the good form going into round 8 of the championship.
Thanks very much, guys.
Ross Rizzo there for Trak Esports. Another race win for Ross, and he's got a good lead in this season 12 of the championship. Daniel is now standing by with our second place man, Nathan Huppers.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Nathan, congratulations on a fantastic drive. I was just saying to Sam before we crossed over for the interviews, you're a driver I've been waiting to have a chat to over the course of this championship, because we've known how good you can be in this car. And it looks like now yourself and the Fusion Sim team are really starting to unlock the performance of the C8.
Yep, I'm back on the podium. It's been a while, but thanks, man. It just went my way. I just had lots of incidents this season, getting punted off and lap 1, so I was just praying, please don't punt me into turn 1, and got through there. And Craig and I just settled into a rhythm behind Ross, but Ross was just too consistent.
Yeah, and off the start there, it looked like both a little bit of a duel between yourself and Craig there early on, just settling out who was going to run the way. Was it kind of the plan that Edwards might end up in front and you could sit behind, utilise a little bit of the draft to save the pit stop, or will you both going, whoever makes it into turn 1 first is going to take the opportunity to run out front for a while?
Look, we always try and race clean as teammates, and I knew Craig would be pretty good over race distance, so he's also higher in the championship for me as well. So, to be honest, at some point in the race, if he got a run on me, I probably wouldn't afford him. Unfortunately, he got balked a bit, I think, by a back marker and had a half spin. So we were just full throttle the whole race, and I was a bit marginal on fuel at the stop. I put in 22 litres, I think it was, and that's what my fuel calculator was telling me I'd need, and pretty much coughed across the line after I got up to turn 1 or turn 2 there. So right on the limit, but I was just trying to gain some time on Ross in the pit stop.
Well, yeah, we were just talking to, or Sam was talking to Ross there just around how the strategy went, and you were marginally quicker than both Trent and Rizzo coming in for that final stop. It was a 9.7 for yourself, 10.05 for Ross, and 11.25 for Trent there. So sounds like you've managed to get the strategy right on the head as far as coming in for that. Was there any caution you had to take with getting in and out of the pit lane to try and avoid any of the penalties there?
Yeah, it's a good pit entrance. You can really brake quite late. So I practiced a few of those on Tuesday night. Was pretty much the only night I practiced this week. Been a bit busy, so I haven't had much practice time, but nailed the entry. Was just careful on the exit because with the hot tyres, it's quite slippery on that exit. It's probably pretty easy to come undone on the grass on the exit. But I was just happy to come out and get a clean exit. And then when Ross came out, or I think I was 1.4 seconds behind him, and I thought, oh, here we go. I'm nearly in the draft. If I could get in the draft, it might have been a different story towards the end. And he pulled away a bit. He was just a little bit too quick in a couple of corners there. And but yeah, I got close to him near the end. I think it was only 1.3 at the end, so he was gaining a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, we've had now the C8 in the championship for quite a few rounds now. New car to the service, a little bit different probably to what a lot of drivers are expecting it might have handled. And obviously, with a lot of the changes going on behind the scenes for balance of performance, how have you found that? And do you think now you've finally managed to unlock that little bit of performance that you're going to need to carry it on for the remainder of the championship?
Yeah, it's a nice car to drive. It's fairly well balanced on some tracks. So on this track, it really felt quite good. Other tracks, to be honest, I've been really frustrated with how that car drives. It's a bit different to the cars I've driven in previous seasons, and it took me a bit to get used to because the diff feels very tight. So on corners, tight exits, it's very hard to get good traction out of those corners, and you really have to stop the rears spinning too much because once they overheat, it gets quite slippery. So yeah, it's taken a little bit of adjusting. As I was talking with Trent before, we're both stabby sort of drivers on the throttle. So with the Beamer this year and the Corvette, we've both had to learn to be a bit smoother, and yeah, it feels like I'm getting my head around it.
Fantastic, mate. Next week, Phillip Island, the third of our Enduros there. First off, do you enjoy the circuit, and how do you think your chances are there, especially based on what we've seen tonight?
Yeah, I just had a look at that. I'm probably the only Australian driver who doesn't like Phillip Island, to be honest. I really don't like it. So I'm not expecting too much. I think it's probably not going to be too bad a track for the Corvette, but I'm tipping the Ford's going to be very strong there. It's a high-speed circuit, some high-speed corners, which the Ford seems pretty good through. So I think there'll be some expectations on Ross and the Fords to do well, but yeah, we'll give it a really good crack as we normally do for Fusion Sim Racing.
Outstanding, mate. Well, again, congratulations on a solid result. Great to see you back up on the podium. And before we let you go and enjoy the celebrations tonight, is there anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, look, big shout out to the team. Craig in particular, it was pretty bad luck. He got a bit of a half spin there. Otherwise, he definitely would have finished ahead of me. And yeah, just a shout out to our sponsors, simrigs.com, Psychonic Solutions, Eclipse Signage, and Daryl Carter Plastering. And probably a shout out to my mum and dad who might be watching this actually. So g'day, mum and dad.
Fantastic, mate. Well, again, awesome drive tonight. Great to see you back up here again, and look forward to hopefully having another chat with you at Phillip Island next week.
That'll be good. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Second place man Nathan Huppert's there for Fusion Sim Racing. We are now going to have a chat with our third place man. It's Trent Thomas in the commentary box with us, who is back on the podium. Congratulations there, Trent. You had to work for that one. A couple of overtakes you needed to get done, but you must be delighted with P3.
Yeah, definitely delighted with the podium tonight. Considering my practicing early in the week, I wasn't too confident coming into tonight. But got a good quali lap in, which was good. And tends to be when you sort of qualify near the front, you tend to be able to sometimes achieve a good result.
Absolutely. Talk us through the move on Lee Vandenberg, because that seemed to be the big moment for you in the race. I mean, that seemed to take you quite a few laps as well. Kind of, what was your mindset when you were racing him there?
Yeah, definitely. That was it was a hard move to make. Lee is a hard person to pass, but he's a very clean racer. So I do like that of him. So shout out to him for that battle. But yeah, I noticed I was quicker than him in, let's call it the first downhill left-hand hairpin. I can't remember the corner name. I had a good run through there, and I sort of put the car in a position to sort of balk him a little bit, and he ran wide at the following right-hander. And then I got a really good run out of Junkau, and Got alongside into turn 1, still couldn't quite get the move done. And then coming out of turn 3, just had just enough overlap so he couldn't block the inside, and got the move done into turn 4 finally.
You check esports guys. Of course, run so many different cars. I mean, you're running the Ford and the Porsche and the BMW. I mean, why is that? Is that just personal preference between you guys? That you kind of have a little bit of a different preference with each car? Is it because maybe you run differently in official series? Because most other teams, of course, will go all for the same car.
Yeah, it's a bit interesting. Yeah, I think it's just personal car choice. I was choosing between the Corvette or the BMW this season, but I just like the BMW. It's a bit hard to drive this year. It's very on edge, so it's very rewarding when you do manage to tame it. But we've got 5 drivers in 4 different cars, so we've got 2 drivers in the Corvette as well. So it's just a personal preference thing when it comes to car choice.
And we're now into the second half of the season. Kind of what are your aims for this second half of the season? Is it to get another race win, or get a particular place in the championship, or perhaps support Ross for the championship? Kind of what are you looking ahead to?
Yeah, just trying to collect team points at the moment. The way the team points are calculated, it takes the top 3 cars, and a lot of the races we've only had 2, so we're actually a little bit behind in the team points title at the moment. So just keep trying to get these strong results for the team. Obviously support Ross with his attempt going for the title. He seems to be on an absolute roll at the moment. But yeah, just at the moment, there's a few good tracks coming up for me. A lot of the tracks earlier in the season haven't really suited me that much, but looking forward to a few more tracks that are coming in the second half of the season. And yeah, goals just to be up there, try and get some podiums, and maybe win if I can.
Awesome. Well, well done tonight. Trent, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, all the boys at Trak Esports, obviously, like, everyone's supporting each other, even though we're all on different cars. Being that it's fixed setup, it sort of allows us to do that, so we don't need to concentrate on the one car. Trak Custom Fabrications and Pro Sim Gear as well for our sponsors.
Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Trent, and best of luck for Phillip Island next time.
Thanks, guys. Catch us next week, hopefully.
Trent Thomas there for Trak Esports, finishing in third place. Just looking at the team's championship, actually, because I kind of seen that Trak Esports were miles clear, but yeah, they are a bit behind. 10,300 points for XRC and then 9,900 for Trak Esports. So there's a little bit of a few points to make up in that one, but that should be one of the championships definitely to watch in the second half of the season. Rizzo now with a about 200 points advantage over Craig Edwards. I think we're getting into the points of the season. In fact, I think it's going to be more than 200 points. I don't think that's taking into consideration tonight's meeting. But I think we're getting into the region now, Daniel, where Edwards and the other guys who want to challenge Rizzo for the championship, they've got to start making up points. It's not good enough now to just make it damage limitation, just try to reduce the amount of points lost to Rizzo. They've now got to properly outscore him in most meetings now towards the end of the season, have some big hits as well into that championship lead. But so far, there's been absolutely no vulnerability from the 978, and it will be tricky to catch in time for round 12 at Zolder to finish off the season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Trak Esports guys haven't put a foot wrong this entire season, and they're continuing to do so. So for everyone else behind, they're really going to have to find that little chink in the armor and see what they can do to exploit it and maybe gain that couple of positions here and there. I think we've got a few really good contenders starting to form up that probably going to see themselves getting in and amongst it over the couple of rounds. I mean, they haven't been that far behind so far this season. A couple of little things not quite gone their way, but they're right there, thereabouts. And, with Fusion Sim Racing now starting to look a little bit stronger, they've found what they need in that car at the moment, and that's allowing them to forge ahead. Mac 1 starting to get up and amongst it. Right Sim Racing and XRC are all there. So we've got some really solid teams that could potentially upset the apple cart a little bit and hopefully provide a really good, interesting finish to conclude out this championship. But as the way it stands, and especially with how we're seeing those Trick Esports cars go, they're not going to be an easy team to knock off the top step.
No, they are going to be tricky to take points off them for the rest of this season 13. Of course, the best way to catch all of the races from now to the end of the season is by subscribing to Apex Racing TV. Leave a like as well on this video, because then it'll probably pop up in your recommendations for next week. So when it goes live, so certainly do give a like. We certainly do appreciate it, and subscribe to Apex Racing TV, because all of your favorite series that we might broadcast on the iRacing Esports network, they're not going to be on there anymore. They're going to be on Apex Racing TV instead. So certainly do subscribe, and also check out our social media as well on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Big thanks to the sponsors for the championship as well. Of course, Trak Racer providing fantastic rigging equipment. If you're upgrading your rig, certainly do go to Trak Racer. And also Acute Solutions as well, providing safety and safety and rigging equipment. Certainly do check them out at Acute Solutions. Got absolutely everything in safety equipment, so certainly do go to them. Also, thanks to Race Management Service as well for helping out setting up all of the sessions. If you're looking to host any races yourself, certainly do check out RMS on Facebook. Their Facebook page is really useful for that, and you can download the app and get a lot more customization over the grids that you set. So big thanks to them as well. But for now, from me, Sam Fitzpatrick, from Daniel Leeds, and from Scott Newton, it is 7 out of 7 for Trick Esports. It is 4 race wins for Ross Rizzo, and we will see you back for the endurance meeting next time out at Phillip Island. See you then.